Okay, after a long time, I am finally making the Python basics video. Finally, the tutorial continues. Now you might ask yourselves, um, well, Tim, what haven't you been uploading for like the past few decades, the past few millennia, the past era? Yeah, about that. See, what happened was, I basically kind of decided to stockpile, I guess, a few of these videos. I decided to make, like record a lot of videos, but not edit them. Uh, Actually, I edited one video, but that video was 1 hour long, and so it took a long time to render, and so I just gave up. That video is probably gonna come out someday, one day or another, but whatever. Anyways, I've already recorded this Python basics video once already, but I just decided to scrap it because it was unfunny and I didn't know what to expect. I didn't When editing the video, I didn't know what to expect. So the best thing to do is just to record the video and then just edit it straight away, not stockpiling videos. Also made like a 10 subscriber special, but it was not funny either, and I scrapped that too. So there were lots of videos that I recorded that I just decided to throw away. So yeah, sorry for the fact that I haven't been doing anything in the past. So what we're gonna do today is programming with idle. The program that we installed in the last iteration of the series, I guess, or the last video of the series. And so basically, what you do, after you've installed uh, Python and the version of Python that you prefer, you type in idle in the search bar, or you just search for idle in Explorer or whatever, and you just open idle. Uh, it just appeared on my other screen. Okay, that's weird. Anyways, then you have this weird thingy. I guess it's kind of like a prompt, kind of like a command line thingy, and you can program Python using this. I don't know. You can do this, but what we were going to focus on today is this file thingy. What you do is you go to file and a new file, and then you get this window, and then you can press Control S, and then you can save this file, and I'll save it as Python tut1. There we go. And yeah, I'll just put this here, make a uh, new folder, Python tut, and it just disappeared onto my other screen again. What is technology? Anyways, I'm going to reopen it because obviously the directory has changed, and so that sometimes causes a few issues. Anyways, we're just going to go through the basics. So in this blank space, you can program, do some Python. And in order to run it, you can press F5, in which case another command prompt or a thingy pops up on my other screen. And it just, of course, nothing happens right now because we don't have any code here. So yeah, but that's how you run the program. And if you don't want to press F5, then just press run and then run module, and it'll do the same thing. Anyways, basically, let's get into basics. And the first thing would be the print function. It outputs data into this thing, whatever it is. And you can basically write anything in this. You can do anything with this, really. You just have to be careful that your message, the things that you can't want to write, has to be between these. What do you call these? Jesus. Yeah, first of all, between these parentheses and between these uh thingies. Sorry, my brain does not work right now. Yeah, this thing, whatever this is. I don't know why I don't know the name of this character. I'm weird. Anyways, really all it does is output data or messages onto your screen. And what you basically do is print, write print, and then open close parentheses. Between it, you write two of these thingies, whatever they're called. Quotation marks, yeah, right. Oh my God. Quotation marks, and then the message that you want. If you do this, yeah, without any quotation marks, watch what happens. Error. And it says name error, name this is not defined, and this has to do with variables, but we will come to that later in this video. So yeah, don't stress it, calm down, you know. Basically, for now, you can do whatever you want. I don't know. Just be careful that you don't write quotation marks inside of these quotation marks. So you can't write he said and then this. Because if you do this, then this doesn't act as the message anymore. Basically, the message is always between two quotation marks, and you know, obviously, these are two and these are two quotation marks. You can imagine it like they come in pairs. And obviously this, in this case, wouldn't be a message anymore. So you would have to resort to single quotation marks, not those double quotation marks thingies. So he said, hello, scum, or something. I don't know. Hello, some. Or, I don't know. What does the dude from Skyrim say? Um, oh god. What does the dude from Skyrim say? Um, something, I don't know. Oh god, this is cringe. Um, Stop right there, you criminal scum. You criminal scum. Pay the fine or serve your sentence or whatever he says. I don't know. I have no idea. I never played Skyrim. Like, I'm only 14. Jesus. What do you expect? I was born in 2005, man. Anyways, you can write whatever you want in here. As long as you don't have these things, more quotation marks inside of them. But if you really need these quotation marks, then what you can do is write a backslash and another quotation mark, and that will work. That will act as a message as well, and the backslash won't be outputted. So if we just do this, as you can see, the backslash isn't outputted, and the quotation mark is there too without causing any problems. Um, so yeah, so if you really need double quotation marks, just do that. Backslash just means it doesn't have the function that it should have in this case. So that's how you output data. That's fine and all, cool. But in programming, you don't only want to output data. What you want to do is receive input from the user, use this input, modify it, like according to rules, whatever you want to do, whatever the purpose is of this data, and then modify it and output it. So now we know how to output things, which is quite fun. Like you can do random stuff, print, haha, stupid or something. I don't know. Try to be funny, I guess. Except that's not really funny. Or, but programming doesn't just consist of outputting data. It again, as I've already said, it also consists of inputting data, receiving input from the user. So for that, one thing that you have to do is are variables. That stores data. You can the analogy, I guess. I don't know. Yeah, I think you say the analogy. The analogy that usually every YouTuber uses is imagine a box, and inside it is the value of the variable. So you have this variable, and you of course name it. We're going to call it you suck, I guess, because pessimistic English is good. Let's not. Let's change it. You're cool, I guess. Oh God. Yeah, that would be the name of the variable, and of course we need to set the value of the variable, which would be the value inside of that box, and that could be anything really. It could be, let's just say a number, and obviously, if you write a number, then you just write the number, you know. And in this case, if we do something like this, then you can imagine, or that's what usually every YouTuber does. You can imagine a box, and the box on top of it, it says "You're cool," and inside of it, you find the value 2,363. But I won't use that analogy, all right? Because I think that analogy is really bad. Let me give you another analogy. Imagine a box, and it says "You're cool" on it, and inside it, you find a value. But that value is not 2,363. It's 2,663 balls. Yes, balls. Imagine it like that. Much better. It's not like it's the same thing. No, not at all. Okay, never mind. Yeah, I don't have a better analogy to be honest. It's a really good analogy. Imagine a box. It has the name "You're cool" on it, and just the value this in this case would be stored in it. If you still cannot understand this concept, then you can write something, comment something in the comment section below. But I think this should be quite understandable. Again, if not, it's not a big deal, you know. Not everybody understands everything directly, so everything's fine. Anyways, that's those are variables. And if you want to access this data, let's say you want to output the data of this variable, then you can just do print and then the name of the variable. You're cool in this case. And as you can see, the value of that variable is printed, but not the name of the variable, because that wouldn't make sense. That would not be that useful. And there's no way you can output the name of the variable either. You can only output the uh, the value of the variable, except of course if you put this in quotation marks, then that means that this has now become a message. This is the message, not the variable itself. And so if we run it, we're gonna see "You're cool" gets printed out, but not the value of that variable because it's the message and not the variable. In this case, it will be the variable because there are no quotation marks. All right. So that's how variables work. Now variables can contain multiple value types. So first of all, you've already learned one, and that those are the numeric values. But the numeric values can also be separated. First of all, there are the integers. Integers, guys should all know what an integer is. It's maths. It's simple maths. It's just either a negative or a positive number without any decimal numbers, right? And then there are decimal numbers, which of course in this case would be any number with some decimal numbers, obviously. It's not that hard to understand. So G equals, again, you can name it whatever you want. There are a few rules, but they're not that important in my opinion. So yeah. So if we run it, we see that no error occurs. So this is all fine. You can print each one to show you guys that data always gets outputted and not the name of the variable. See, the data of the variable that it's stored, that it is stored. Now then, there are also so-called strings. Strings are the things in quotation marks. This, okay? It's basically message. It's basically text. So let's say T. You can name whatever you want, as I've already said. And to declare a string, that would be a message, just put two quotation marks, just like in that print statement. and then just mash whatever you want in there. And that will be a string. And if we were to print out t, we'll get that message. Now, of course, if we were to get rid of this, as expected, we would get uh, an error. Now, coming back to this name error thingy, why does it say that this is not defined? So let's say we write this. It obviously works fine, but if I get rid of this, what does it say? Something like this. Name error, name xcv is not defined. What does that even mean? Now, what are we talking about this? Well, that's because learning to read errors is very essential or very useful and can help you debug your code. And it's generally very useful. Now, the reason it says name blah 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 is not defined is because since this is not in quotation marks, the Python interprets this as a variable. He thinks that xcv is a variable that is defined somewhere above. So let's say we do this, right? Or if we do this, then obviously t is equal to xcv, and xcv, the variable, is equal to this randomness. And obviously that would mean t is equal to this message. That makes sense, right? And so this gets printed out. So when Python reads something like this, it thinks that this is a variable. But obviously, as you can see in this code, we have never declared a variable called xcv. So xcv doesn't even exist at all. It isn't defined. The value of this uh, variable is not defined. So that's what it means. Name, which means the variable of xcv is not defined. The value of it is not set. Again, if we were to do this, it would work. It would print out the value of xcv because t is equal to xcv. And that works for anything. G is equal to t, and g is defined here. This is the value, so obviously t is also equal to the value of g, and so g is printed out. So I think this is quite understandable. Um, Again, cutting back to strings, don't forget these quotation marks. They're very common. You will always need them when you write messages, or when you write strings. When you need a message or a string or text, then uh, or what happened? Oh yeah, right. T is not defined. We haven't. There's no variable called t in this program. If we just do this, as you can see, it gets outputted. And so yeah, those are strings, just text. And as of again, this works just like printing out a message like this. You cannot add quotation marks. You cannot do that. Else you will there will be problems, obviously. So you can't use other quotation marks except, of course, if you put a backslash before it. All right. So in this case, see that'll work. If you were to get rid of that, yeah, we would get an error. So yeah, that it basically works just like printing out this using the print function and this. It's basically the same thing, and what's in here is also a string, a message. And since we know that there are variables with values such as numbers, uh, it would be logical if we were able to print numbers, and obviously, as you can see, that's the case. We can print numbers as well, which I forgot to mention at the very beginning. As you can see, I'm a very structured person. I definitely planned this video. No, I didn't. Anyways, I think this is understandable. Strings and integers, pretty easy. Strings, messages, integers, numbers, uh, and then decimal numbers are obviously numbers with decimal uh, places, I guess, whatever you call them in English. I have no idea. But then there are other values, such as booleans. Booleans, they come in two forms. There are two different Boolean types, true and false. That is all the two values that are Boolean. True and false. Those are Booleans. There's nothing else that is a Boolean except for true and false. Now this is basically the internal logic. True, we all know that the computer is like has zeros and ones and does all that kind of stuff. We all know that, but we don't know how that actually works. We have all been told that the computer just operates because there are zeros and ones and they read it like somehow, but we were never told in detail how those work. But essentially, true and false in this case are ones and zeros. You can interpret them as that. True would be one, false is zero, right? And the computer can do logic with this, and this will come in handy later on when we deal with if statements, while loops, stuff like that. But we will come to that later. Those things are more complex and harder to understand. Well, not harder to understand, but just a little bit more difficult. And yeah, basically those are the Boolean values, and you can obviously also print them. Boom. It's not that difficult. It's pretty straightforward. So those are the simple value types. And then let's talk about input. Now that you know all of these variable types, cool. But of course, as I've said, we would want to receive input from the user and output it, manipulate it, and then output it. So today, let's just write two lines of code that will print out um, the thing or the message that the user has inputted, right? That's pretty easy. What we need to do is we need to define a variable. We'll call that input or user input. User input. And then we will set it equal to input. This is the statement that you need to receive input from a user, right? And then in between these parentheses, you can set a message that is printed out into this console. Uh, and obviously, it would have to be something like enter a message because the user has to know what to do, has to know that they are asked to input something. And obviously to output the input, yes, to output the user input, the only thing you would have to do is print out that variable. This variable obviously has the name user input in it and stores the value that the user has entered. And obviously that gets printed out because this is then printed out. Enter a message. Let's say that's not a message, but that's all right. You can do that. And obviously it gets printed out. So that's pretty interesting. For some of you, you might have noticed, hey, if that's the case, couldn't we just abbreviate this? So just copy this, get rid of the variable, and just do this. That means output the input that was given by the user, and we will enter a message to tell the user that they are asked for input. That is true. You can do that. So yeah, it's pretty straightforward, and yeah, that is just how you can ask for input in Python, how you can store things and values and variables, and how you can output them. Another thing that I actually wanted to mention that I've mentioned before, or indeed that I want to mention in detail, but I have mentioned before, but I haven't done yet. Oh God, my sentences are very weird right now. Like, come on, guys, like, calm down. It's like almost 9 o'clock. I'm kind of tired. I'm kind of tired right now. All right, I can't even talk. Anyways, naming variables. That's what I wanted to talk about. So when naming variables, there are a um, few things that you have to uh, remember, and that is first of all, variables cannot start with a number. So you cannot just say 2 is equal to this, is equal to 3. See? Invalid syntax. You get an error. So cannot start with number. And cannot have or contain any special characters either. It's like this. That you can't do that either. The only special character that is allowed is the underscore. The underscore can be put anywhere in the name. You can do it like this. Yeah, so everything works. Oh wait, I didn't print this out. FJDKLA. Obviously 3 gets printed out because, let me just delete this. 3 gets printed out because that is its value. So the only special character that is allowed is underscores and cannot start with numbers. So that's really the basics. Those are the basics of Python. Variables, input and output, and naming, how to name the variables. If you have any questions, then just leave them in the comment section below. I'll explain it. And yeah, see you next time where we will talk about exactly changing the variable type. You will understand that in the next video. I'll see you then. Bye.